In this video, I will demonstrate a more sophisticated way to simulate rolling a pair of fair dice and creating a frequency plot in Excel. So um, let's start off with the calculator part first. So in the previous example I showed, I was rolling essentially rolling the dice one roll at a time. And there are much more efficient ways to do this on the calculator. In one of the ways I've come up with that I think works pretty well is to think of rolling each of the die separately. So again, I'm kind of using Catan, the game of Catan, as a motivator for doing these experiments or these simulations. And in Catan, one die is red, one die is yellow. So you can distinguish between the die. And that's the way to imagine this process. And so essentially, what I'm going to do on the calculator now is I'm going to roll the red die 100 times and store the results in a list. Let me show you how to do that. So, what we want to do here is press Math, go over to PRB, choose Random Int. And again, remember I have wizards on my calculator, so there's a different process for the older calculators. But this time I'm going to roll the die or ask the calculator to roll the die 100 times. So what the calculator is going to do is select 100 random integers from 1 to 6 from a uniform distribution. And what I'm going to do is press store. Now the calculator is going to create a list with 100 results in it. And what I want to do is store that list into L1, which is a list built into the calculator. And so I press enter. So what's happened is, and you can see it pop up in the screen, some of the rolls. So there was a 6, a 6, a 6, a 1, a 2, a 6, 6, 3, so forth. So what I have stored now in list L1 is 100 rolls of the red die. And now I'm going to repeat this process. And there are shortcuts on the calculator. You can press second, then enter. That brings back the previous command. And what I want to do here is I want to replace L1 with L2, as so. And that's because I want to have this second process is you can think of as rolling the yellow die 100 times, and we want to store those results in a different list. So what you see here is we have a 6 on the red die and a 2 on the yellow die. So there's a 7, there's another 7, there's a 12, there's a 5, a 7, a 12, 9. And so if we were actually playing the game of Catan, these could be outcomes. It could be a 6, 7, 8. Oh, maybe I miscounted there. An 8, and then an 8, and then a 12, and then a 5, and then a 7, and then a 12, and then a 9, and then a 5, and so forth. So on the calculator, I can actually add these two lists together. So I can automate the whole process here by just taking L1 plus L2 right on the home screen. Now remember, we want to save these values. So I'm going to store these into another list and call it L3 and press enter. So you can see there's the 8, there's the 8, there's the 12, the 5, the 7, 12, 9, so forth. So now what's in L3 is a list of the sums of the red and yellow dice. And then that's what we're after. So in Catan, the roll would have been an 8, a 12, a 5, a 7, a 12, and so forth. And we would get resources and different things would happen in the game depending on the roll. Now, the next step that I want to show you is how would I take this information? Right now, I can, the list is active, so I can scroll through by using the right and left arrows and see the results of all the rolls. But there's 100 sums here to deal with, and that's quite a lot. And so what I'm going to actually do is use some of the calculator data sorting features to rearrange these numbers in ascending order. And that's just going to make them easier to count up. And the way to do that is to go second stat. And by the way, while I'm thinking about it, if you got different numbers than I got from your simulation, that's okay. Because again, we did not seed the random number generator this time around. So it's quite likely that your calculator now is giving different random number sequences. which is why they work so well. These pseudo random number generators really work well, as long as we don't know the seed value. Now, the first choice here under operations, if you followed my steps, I pressed stat, went to what did I press? No, I'm sorry. I pressed second and then stat, and then arrowed one to the right to get to operations. And I want to sort ascending. Sort A is sort ascending. I have to give it a list name, and my sums are what I want to sort. Those are in L3. And in some circumstances, you want to be careful with sorting data. There are situations where the data being sorted, if it's paired data, what we call paired data, which L1 and L2 definitely are paired. So we wouldn't want to sort those two lists and then add them together or something like that. We would really mess up the randomness of our rolls. And as a general principle, it's a good idea when you're sorting data to just go ahead and put it into a different list. So what I have here now is I've asked the calculator to sort the list L3 in ascending order and store that in L4. Oops, and I made a mistake. So let's see. I'm not. Oh, okay, I forgot. Okay, that's a mistake. I can't put that into another list. So let me do this a different way. Okay, so what I need to do first is take L3 and store L3 into L4. And now I have a copy of L3 and L4. And then what we would do next is sort L4. I forgot that you can't sort a list into another list on the TI. So the first step would be to make a copy and then sort that list. So now L4 has been sorted. Now here's another step just to take real quick. I press the stat key. I choose 5 for setup editor, or press enter. So if you follow that step, when you go to the editor screen, you'll have the exact same screen that I have. So I press second. Well, you may have different numbers, but it'll look like this. You'll see L1 to L2, L3, and L4. And actually, if you have an older calculator, you may not see L4. You may have to arrow over to the right to get to L4. Well, this is interesting. I can see right now from sorting it that we didn't get any 2s. We got a few 3s here and some 4s and some 5s and some 6s and so forth, but we didn't get any 2s, which is interesting. It's a little bit surprising. But again, it's a random process, so this is what can happen. So now I'm going to go into Excel. So here we have an Excel spreadsheet. It's just a blank page. There are different versions of Excel, so it's possible your screen may look a little bit different than this. But essentially, you should see A column, B column, and then the row numbers along the sides here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to transfer this information from the calculator over to the Excel spreadsheet. So what I'm going to start off with is just counting. There are no 2s, so I'm not going to put any 2s in my list. So I'm going to count one. I'm going to count the number of 3s. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's all right, 7 3s. So I'm going to go to Excel, and there's a bit of a trick we're going to use. In the first column, in column A, I'm going to put the 7 3s. And then in the second column, in column B, I'm going to number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And there's a reason why. We're going to create a frequency plot on the calculator in a special way, and we need to format our output from the calculator in this way. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the calculator and count the 4s. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 11 4s. So I'll go back to Excel, put in 11 4s. And then go to column B and number those 1 through 11. Now I go back and do the 5s. Looks like I got 11 5s. You may see me make a mistake. I'm doing this rather quickly. How many sixes? 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 14 sixes. Do the sevens. I think I got 14 sevens there. I'll do a kind of a quick trick here. I'll just copy and paste 1 through 14 here. Okay, and then we'll do the sevens next, or the eights next. Okay, I think I counted 11 eights there. Again, let me do a quick shortcut. I don't know if this is faster or not, but maybe it is. Cut and paste 1 through 11 down here. Okay, I think I counted 8 nines. Eleven tens. Now you can kind of see why Catan or any dice game is fun. If you had a settlement near a 10, you'd be happy. But let's see, 11. Is that what I said? Shoot. Oop. Okay, there were 11, so this next one's going to be an 11. Yeah, so I'm saying it's quite lucky to get 11 tens on 100 rolls. Because how many would we expect? That's part of the activity, is to figure out how many tens we would expect out of 100 rolls. I'm going to let you think about that for a little bit. I'm not just going to tell you the answer right now. So let's see, 11, how many of those? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 11s. So again, more 11s than we would expect. And finally, let's count up the 12s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 12s. So again, you can maybe begin to see why games like Catan and dice games in general end up being fun, because we ended up with 5 12s and no 2s. So if you, in each of those, I mean, there's one way to roll a 12. There's one way to roll a 2. So we would expect 1, 2, or 112 every 36 rolls. So roughly, we'd only expect to see 3, maybe 4 of each, the 2s and 12s. And notice we got no 2s, but 5 12s or 6 12s. How many 12s do we get? Now, I'll probably mess this up because I'm trying to talk and do this at the same time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. So I got too many 12s. Let me take 112 out. And I can see I should have 100 entries total. So anyway, I think I have this correct. Now to draw the frequency plot, what we're going to basically do is put our cursor up here, select both columns, A and B, and just select the numbers in them, go to Insert, and choose a scatter plot, and just choose the very first choice for scatter plot. And you can see we have a frequency plot here. Now there is stuff I can do to make it look more like the frequency plots that we've been drawing by hand. I don't need a y-axis because the number of each of the x's or each of the markers represents the count for each of the numbers, so I can take those out. I can format the axis, and again, there are many things you can do in Excel to change things up and improve the look of your chart. Let's see. Chart element. For example, we can give an axis title. This is our variable sum of pips. I want to format this axis. So let's see, I'm not sure. Well, I'm not finding what I'm looking for at the moment. I thought it was under this link. Okay. So anyway, it was a roundabout way, and I'm not asking you to be an expert in Excel by any stretch of the imagination. Um, Basically, I'm kind of quickly just showing you what uh, Excel's capable of, and we can replicate these charts pretty closely. I can give it a title, frequency. Something like that, maybe. I can make my chart bigger just by grabbing the corner and stretching it out here. Change its shape a little bit. And these are dots showing the frequencies, which are fine, but I can also go in here and change the marker type under marker options and make them X's like we've been using in our hand-drawn frequency plots, and maybe make them a teeny bit bigger or something. So in any case, this is my replication of a frequency plot for the simulating two fair die. I hope you find this video useful, and I'll see you next time.